Are these $100 cast trucks the Ronin Katana killers? Well, let's find out. These are the Rebirth R1 trucks. These are about $110, shipped from Bifo Skate. That's where I got mine. These are a set of cast trucks that have 2 queen pins compared to Ronin's 1 queen pin. Now for some basic stats on these are split angle, 48 in the front and 23 in the rear. The hanger is spaceable between 131 and 135 millimeters, and they have 7 millimeters of rake front and rear. On the left, we have the Ronin Katanas 114 to 120. On the right, we have the Rebirth R1s, which are 130 to 135 millimeters. Note the tiny width on those spacers there compared with the Ronin spacers. These are 5 mil and these are 2.5 mil spacers. Also on these hangers here, note the difference in length on that pivot pin. This, the Ronin pivot pin is probably somewhere around 1 centimeter. The one on the Rebirth is about 1.5 centimeters. So that's going to be a slight difference. Just taking a look at that diameter there, that's probably 3/4 centimeter, so like 0.75. And this one's almost a full centimeter. So that's the details on the hanger here. I also believe that the Rebirth hanger has slightly more rake, especially if we look at that bottom section there. Also, let's take a look at these pivot cups, or queen pin cups, sorry. These, I'm not sure, they look like that Riptide kind of greenish pivot cup color. Additionally, take a note on all that damage that I've done right there to the Rebirth hangers just from assembling and disassembling it. That's part of the issue with this long pivot pin that I ran into. Also, taking a look on this back side of the hanger, flat bushing seat, no bushing seat at all on the Rebirths. There's a slight bushing seat on the Ronins here, but it's still relatively open. So moving on to the base plates on the Rebirth R1, we've got first off 2 queen pins. There's that second queen pin hole there. I've removed it for something else that I'm going to get into. We've got this. This is not a pivot cup. It's kind of like a bushing almost. Let me just pop that out so we can take a look there. So, finally managed to get that one out. What we're looking at here, this is a very similar in dimension to this. This is a Riptide core bushing. It's about half the height, but it's also about the same size. It should actually fit right over the kingpin. Yeah. So it's about the same size. It's very soft. Moving on to the queen pin. So Ronins, you have this like little queen pin bushing, and it's kind of like shoved into the actual queen pin. Another thing to note here, on the Ronin queen pin, you've got an actual profile here. Kind of got this taper coming into that head there. Let's slide that one back in. On the Rebirth R1 trucks, this queen pin is just a straight shaft of metal, rounded over at the tip. Goes inside this Delrin sleeve, and then at the base, kind of just tossed in the bottom, you've got this little kind of compressible nub, right? So that'll all go inside of the sleeve, inside of the hole for that one, right there. As you can see, they both kind of have like a little bit of squish. The first main issue that I see with the Rebirths has to do with this long pivot pin here. Given that this is very long in here, and kind of given where this kingpin's placed, when you go to reassemble it, you have to compress that bushing there. It's very soft. And you're kind of grating off that inside surface of the hanger. But kind of have to force it and then slide it down in. Now, compare that to what we're looking at with Ronins. Super easy, fits great. Now, other than that hanger damage off there, that really soft bushing has another effect. So let's start off with the Ronins here. Note that you get really good articulation, lots of lean, and the side to side, there's not much. I'm mostly feeling just a little bit, but once we chuck some bushings in there, make sure it's preloaded correctly, no problem at all. Any of the slop from the kingpin kind of moving side to side in here, and between the head of the kingpin and this cup here, that should all be pretty well eliminated by these minimal bushing seats. Now, sliding on over to the Rebirth R1s. You can kind of feel as you hit this edge here, the queen pins kind of start to come out once you start to max out lean out. This is because of the profile. The queen pin pivot cups on the Rebirth R1s are slightly more open because they don't have that kind of ball and socket head. It's just a straight pin. So you're going to reach a certain amount of lean where it's going to start to pop out of the cup. On my cast Ronins, that pivot cup, that queen pin pivot cup to queen pin head is so small tolerance, it's so tight that when I actually pop my hangers out, the queen pin actually comes with. Completely different with these R1s. These queen pins aren't really engaging as well, and they don't support the lean as well. Additionally, if we take a look at the side-to-side slop, I'm just going to start cranking on that one sideways. There's a really significant amount of play in there. Now, what's going on in here is that because this bushing is so large, it can compress and squish, and that means that the slop is actually coming directly in that pivot cup. Take a look on that back end here. You can also see how much those queen pins are wiggling side to side. I'm going to pop this hanger back out. Here's the queen pin. You can see just how much play they have. And you can also see how kind of open these pivots are. So it kind of maxes out at about that much lean. And any more, you'll start to pop that one out of the socket. Also, take a note in difference in coloration. I haven't ridden these trucks an insane amount, just pretty lightly, and you can kind of see this cup here has more metal dust, dirt, whatever in there, from this queen pin just being ground in there. This one does not. That leads me to believe that the second queen pin, the one that's closer here, it leads me to believe that that's entirely redundant. Yeah, a little disappointing on that front. But let's take a look at what Ronin's done. Their queen pin. Slot the Ronin queen pin in. Get a lot more lean before you start to actually pop that one out. I also highly suspect that this greater amount of compressibility will also help to compensate for that. So, yeah. Let's take a look there. Ronins. And max out the lean on that queen pin at about there with rebirths. This one, my overall opinions of these trucks, Rebirth trucks, just from a sheer mechanical standpoint, they're a little bit sloppier than Ronins. They're actually a lot sloppier than Ronins, just because of several design choices that have had to be made, namely on the profiling of these queen pins and the tolerances, just to save on machining costs. The choice to have a very long pivot pin combined with this overall kind of geometry in here. The long pivot pin, this very large and soft bushing, and the general cost savings that the Rebirth trucks have had to make. One of the big ones that I don't like here is the queen pin stack. if not careful while disassembling, you can lose the little rubber nub, and then that's not good at all. As opposed to with Ronins, that queen pin you can just pull out by hand in the field, super easy to maintain. A couple of things that one of the main reasons why I think they did this is because the team behind the Rebirth trucks is building a couple of other trucks, stuff with sphericals, etc. If you'll note, I used this Riptide core bushing that fits inside the hanger there, and that covers the queen pin. My thought here is that these trucks were intended to be run with sphericals, or they have a very similar cast mold, and they machine it slightly differently. So they've probably bored out holes for these queen pins here, and that's the only difference between this base plate and something that's more like a Gold Rogue, where it relies on insert bushings, or like a ZM1, where it relies on sphericals. Another thing that leads me to believe this is a spherical designed truck is this hole right here. What this hole does is this will allow someone to take like a little stick or kind of paperclip type device, shove it through here to pop out a spherical. I can confirm that Rebirth R1s do not work with sphericals. Some of the tolerances here got a little bit stuck on the in a spherical, so that was a big problem. Overall, I think that a lot of what I personally have problems with on the Rebirth R1s, in terms of just design and engineering, is related to a lot of the cost-saving measures. These Ronin trucks, fresh from the factory, are going to run you, man, $500 to $600, and getting these race trucks is going to be like nigh impossible unless Caps does another run with them. This truck was about $100, so about a fifth of the price. That definitely does show in some of the choices that they made to make that price.
So, how do these trucks feel once they're dialed in? These trucks feel a little bit like the Zealous Precisions, specifically around that narrower size. The main reasons for that is this really deep bushing seat. You feel the edge of the bushing seat start to engage once you get past a lot of the center and a lot of that tuck leaning area. You'll feel it kind of engage and bite into the bushing, and then you really feel a good authoritative command of when you want to kick those wheels out. I think that this makes this truck decent for applications where you want something more restrictive, something a little bit free-ridey, something where you're not trying to race and tuck lean the tightest corners, something where you want a little bit of slide, but also some directionality. This is my setup for the Rebirth R1 trucks. I have them mounted right now on the Earthwing Hoopty R. This is a 9-ply deck. I have it set to the 22-inch wheelbase setting. On the top, I've just got a simple footstop of my own design. In the front truck, I have dual 87A mango barrels, or tall barrels. I also have a cup washer and that insert bushing that I designed and printed earlier. In the rear truck, I've got dual 93A grape bushings. I have a cup washer and the same insert bushing as I have in the front truck. I feel like with this setup, I'm still very able to kick out slides. It functions a little bit better on stand-ups for me than my race board, just because I've just got an additional bit of restrictiveness in the setup.
I think that compared to Ronins, these trucks are designed not as well. They slop much more. I think that there are some base design issues that need to be dealt with before these are a viable competitor to Ronins. Keep in mind that this is also comparing about a $100 truck to something that I got for about $450 used. It's probably about $500 to $600 new, right? I think that these trucks might be good if you already have a set of Ronins. if you have something dedicated to like high speeds, grip and rip type stuff, something for just going really fast, and you want to have a lower speed like 30 miles an hour, 35 miles an hour and below freeride board, given the more restrictive bushing seats, I'm thinking this could kind of help you kick out your slides a little bit better than on something that's very, very lean and grip focused. Beyond that, I don't think that there's a great place for these as like a entry-level slalom truck, slalom downhill truck, or an entry-level narrow truck. I think there's simply just better options out on the market. Like we've got Zealous for about 300. It's 3 times the price of these trucks, but you get a precision truck, you get spacing options that make sense, and you get a, at this point, tried and true design that has intelligent choices made. I think that given more time and design on these, maybe even given if this was remade in a fully CNC machined version with a couple of tweaks, this could be a decent truck. But I think at the moment right now, they're not the best option for your small downhill trucks. However, I will continue to ride them, and I will post an update video if I find some kind of breakthrough or if something changes around these trucks in my experience. Alright, thanks so much for watching, y'all. Have a nice one.